Hi, and welcome to our Glitch 2600 Tech Tuesday. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Did a little bit different lighting setup so you can kind of see if I look up cool rings in my eyes there. Picked up the ring light, added a new lighting setup, actually used some of those photography skills I have. But this is Tech Tuesday, or whatever we're going to end up calling it, but since it keeps happening on Tuesdays, it's still Tech Tuesday. So this is where you get to ask your geek questions, just general computers, photography, general geekery, and I will do my best to answer. I've got many years background as, in IT, and if you ask anyone in my family, I grew up, I was born a geek and 100% a geek. So if I don't know the answer, I will track it down for you and get it to you. But there's a good chance I'll probably be able to at least get you in the right direction. So if you're new on, please say hi. We'd love to know you're here. And then if you've got a question, just put Q and then type out your question and post it in to the comments, and I'll see it live and try to answer it. But hey, I'll say hi. Hi, Sarah. How are you doing? Hopefully doing good tonight. But yeah, we're just messing with the setup. Also, if you've new here, we also do a happy hour most weekends where we cover, now we're trying to cut it down to about 2-3 beers. Craft beer, that's our fun GH2 or GH squared glitch happy hour. And we just talk all things craft beer, wine, and all that. And we also have our bits and bytes. So our glitch bits are little 2 to 5 minute segments where we cover different things you might need to know, on your computer, how to clear your cache, turn on and off your Wi-Fi properly, little things like that. Where our bytes are more in-depth episodes where we talk about what's the right router to get for your house, what's Wi-Fi 6, what's mesh, or right now we've got our League of Legends series where we have our in-house League of Legends expert kind of just go over everything about the game. And so we've got multiple series on that. So if you're interested there, that's out there, but we will be adding the other stuff. We have an Apple Watch one coming as soon as I get enough free time to work on it. But doing well, just got back from a workout. I'm going to go work out after this. So we're going to get this done and then going to go work out. But yeah, only 2 to 3 beers. Yes, we used to do anywhere from 4 to 5, but the problem is how long the show was getting. And I wanted to get more info in there. So we're just going to get a little bit more info on the beers when we do the craft beer. And it's how many I had to drink afterwards, which is such a hard job to turn around and have to drink the beers after. But it just seemed better to back it off and maybe have more episodes. But for anyone else who doesn't know, Sarah is one of the hosts with Wine Styles. When we talk about doing the Wine Styles West Glen, if you look that on Facebook or on YouTube, if you look up Wine Styles, you'll see that they do a set of virtual happy hours and many other things. And Sarah's one of the hosts on there along with Brian and Matt. So when you hear me say Sarah, Brian, and Matt are the people I go to for all that info, that's the Sarah. Sorry, I'm just parched today. But again, if you have tech questions, otherwise this won't be the longest episode. I've get some messaged in, but we'll go so far. And even then, if you are catching this on the replay and want to submit a question, you can still submit it. Just go ahead, type a Q, message me through Facebook on the Glitch 2600 page, which you can find that link over there. Just type in Glitch 2600, all one word, and you'll get to our page. If you're on YouTube, come find us there. Which reminds me, while I'm thinking of it, I should probably say, you can follow us on YouTube. And that's a quick, easy way to get there. Or you can hover your phone over that QR code, and that will say, hey, do you want to go there? And you'll say yes. And then you can click subscribe. And vice versa if you are on the other side. So we're talking about computers and fun tech, geek, general stuff. I've had a few different questions, but one thing that keeps coming up a lot, and as I'm doing more and more live streaming myself and have assistants, is most people don't realize that there's different types of USB. And the USB is the way that we plug a lot of devices into our computers. USB stands for Universal Serial Bus. So we used to have serial connectors, and then we used to have parallel connectors. That's the old printer ones. And then we moved to that kind of printer ones that look a little bit more like this on one end and that on the other. So this is USB A and B. That's where that came from. That's USB 1.0, meaning that it only operates at 11 megabits per second, which no one needs to know and really memorize that. I'm just letting you know because when we talk about the other things, you'll see why this is important. So later, what came out was USB 2.0. USB 2.0 looks exactly the same. Looks like that on the other end. You might see some other connectors, so you'll see two different sizes. You'll see that size, which is the B connector, and then the A. But that operates at 480 megabits per second. So USB 2.0 was a big jump. That's where you started really seeing external hard drives. And again, that's great, but kind of who cares? Other than being faster. Well, in the wake of that, you started to see mini USB and micro USB. So mini USB is the type that's kind of like that. Not to be confused with the old kind of square connector, which is bigger, but that kind of see it there where it makes almost like a trapezoid type look. Became one of the most prevalent ones for it. That's how you connected cameras and all that until Androids came along and we got micro USB, which is very small. And that makes it very confusing for people because you never know when it's micro or mini, which we haven't even gotten into USB-C yet. But having said that, that's all wonderful. Different ways to connect it. It just means when you go to look, you got to see if it's a micro or a mini. They do make adapters, and all of them can operate, if it's USB 2.0, up to 480 megabits per second. And then along came USB 3.0. So USB 3.0, there's a few different connectors still, but basically it looks still like that on the end. So with that, the only difference is USB 3 will always have a blue in there. They kind of learned their lesson between USB 1 and USB 2. On USB 1, everyone just went, well, I can't tell the difference between USB 1 and 2. No, you really couldn't. Most of the time, it just looked exactly the same. But USB 3, they said, hey, we should probably make that little bar in there blue so we know, because USB 3 can operate in the gigabits per second, so quite a bit more. So when you talk about 11 megabits, that's 1,000 kilobits, so 1 megabit, 2 megabit, pretty close to like what you see for your internet. And if you might have, everyone thinks it's megabytes, but it's megabits. It's 8 bits instead. So 8 bits equal a byte. So when it's megabits, it's not quite megabytes. So don't get too confused there. But USB 3 operates much faster and much higher. And that becomes important when you want to connect a USB 3 device, such as a camera for streaming, and you're using a USB 1.0 cable. If you use a USB 1.0 cable, if it was something like this, and it's just this little dinky or a little extender, I use extenders all the time. I get from like monoprice.com, great place to get cheaper cables. High quality, but cheaper cables. You can get an HDMI cable for like $4 sometimes, or you can get USB ones for $4, little extenders. Well, those extenders, if I got the wrong one, that could slow down or make the camera not all that usable for live streaming or for video work. If I'm bringing in files from it, or if I have my memory cards and I want to bring my stuff in there, I'm like, man, it takes forever to bring the photos in off my camera. Well, if you're connecting it to an extension, or if you're using an older cable, you could be connecting a USB 2 device to a USB 1 cable. So when in doubt, the nice thing is most of the cables are downward compatible. So if you're ever worried, go get some USB 3 cables. Go to monoprice.com and they'll have blue, and you'll know, hey, if I have blue on the end, great. And the nice thing is you can get the ends for each one. So you can get a USB 3 that's mini or micro. At a certain point, it can only handle so much. Some of the cameras don't move in quite as fast. That's where it's better to get a card reader, because another version of USB 3 looks like this, but then has a little extension to the side. So it can handle a little bit more data. And that's before we ever got into USB-C, which I'm amazingly using all my USB-C cables, so that's not going to work all that great. But it looks kind of like a circular-ish version of this. That's what the new Androids use. That's what the new the new iPad uses. So we'll connect. That's USB-C. The nice thing about USB-C is you can plug it in upside down either way. It does not matter. The pins are the same way. Some of them are not coded well to where you do have to flip them over for power, but most of the time you can flip them as need be. Where this one, because of the way that the connector is, it won't plug in because of that end right there. So if you get that, USB-C is really the future. That's where eventually the iPhone will go. I don't know why it's taking them forever. The Mac Pros, MacBooks, all the current Macs, they all pretty much run USB-C. The new iPads pretty much run USB-C. They don't run the Lightning cables anymore, which is just another fancy version of USB that's proprietary to Apple. But even the Androids, all the Androids have pretty much gone USB-C. So I'm assuming eventually the iPhone will, and that'll be great. There's a big push in the European Union and across the pond to pretty much make or force the companies to say, hey, you can't have your phone here or you can't have your devices if you don't adopt this universal connector, which is essentially USB-C. So I think in the future that'll be where it all goes, and that can handle up to anywhere from 5 to 10 gigabits per second. So that's obviously the future and where we want to go. It's more robust cable, stronger shielding, all sorts of stuff that's just geek speak for it's a better connector. So if you ever have the chance, USB 3.0 or 3.1 is USB-C. You'll see them both. But USB 3 and above gets you quite a bit of speed, and that's what you want. So if you're ever stuck slower with some of your USB devices, check to see. You might be plugging into a hub, which, of course, I have mine off screen. A little mini hub, where it has lots of USB connectors. That could be a USB 2.0. Hopefully it's not a USB 1, if you picked up at a garage sale, maybe. But same thing, if you get a USB 3 hub, which isn't expensive, you can get them for $30-$40. Have 7 connectors. I just got one from Best Buy recently. But that can handle in the gigabits per second. So when in doubt, if that's the problem, just turn around and upgrade the hub maybe. And then check your cable, make sure that's blue. That way you're taking all the roadblocks out of the communication. And you'll just see most likely a better and more robust communication. So like I said, with the camera, printers aren't going to do much for you. If you go USB 3, you can plug it into a USB 3 hub. And unless that printer has data capabilities and you're getting kind of advanced at that point, where it's doing more, it's one of your multi-function laser color printers that has media storage and can do all sorts of cool stuff that you've probably learned a little bit about that at that point. So you're probably not the person who's stuck on that. Then that's the only time where that might come into play and help you. Otherwise, USB 2 is fine, or a USB 2 cable. But when in doubt, get a USB 3 cable if you're ever worried and stuff's just running slow. But especially with cameras, hard drives, if you can, even if it's a USB 2.0 hard drive, you can hook up a USB 3 blue-sided on each side as long as the connectors match up. And you're just going to get the full bandwidth of it. You're never going to be worried that you're bottlenecking at the cable. So that's one of my little tips, because it's come in a lot in trying to teach other people on when I say, hey, I need a USB 2 cable, or I need that cable, and I point to them and 3 of the cables look almost exactly the same. Well, it becomes a lot easier for me to go, get the one that has blue on the end. I mean, I can colorize them, but get the one that has blue on the end. That's a USB 2 or USB 3 cable. And then I can point and say, the one that looks kind of like a C, like a little, squished donut. That's USB-C. And then everything else just grab as needed. So that's a little tip. Kind of came up a few times, so I'm sharing it with with everyone, because I actually get questions on that a fair amount. Even in the work world, and then everyone asks, even when it comes to which cables connect their phones and why does everything have to be different, they are working on getting to a universal connector. So, but again, if you guys have any tech questions out there, by all means, type Q, send it into the comments, and I will try to answer those live. Additionally, we're still trying to come up with a better name for the show. We don't always know that we want to keep doing this on Tech Tuesday. It might be Tech Thursday, Wednesday, Friday, whichever days kind of work. So we toyed around with calling it Tech TV as a throwback to my Tech TV days, or coming up with some fancy name. So if you guys come up with a cool name out there, let me know, send it through, and I'll say a heartfelt thanks when we decide on that one. But otherwise, if you don't want to be called out, I won't say anything there either. But I appreciate the help. We're pretty much stuck on the bits and bytes and the GH squared, but really could use help on the Tech TV, Tech Tuesdays naming. At the same time, if there's a day or time that works better for being able to do live questions and answers, by all means, give us a suggestion. We love to catch more of the live audience when we can. We've even talked about allowing a phone-in option in the not too distant future. We'll just see how that plays out. I've got to work out all the technicals, and I still have cool new video stuff. We're going to change out this backdrop that's down here, that green. I've got all new video assets that I'm working on that'll pop up cool little questions and some trivia. Same stuff we're going to bring over to the beer side. Some stuff that you might eventually see over on the wine style side too. So really cool little pop-up messages and things we can do. So, but again, I appreciate any of the help and suggestions for that. Sorry, for some reason it's super dry down here. But some of the other questions I've gotten recently were I've had some video questions. Still had more general computer questions that always come through. But we already kind of covered some of those recently. If you go back to some of the last couple episodes where we talked about the iPhone transferring over messages, if you have Android people messaging you, how you get that onto your Mac computer. So we covered that in the last one, kind of showed that, where you turn on text forwarding. And if you're ever having trouble with that, also check to make sure if you do Apple service page and just type Apple service, or Apple service support, you'll be able to find if any other services are down. And when in doubt, you can always log out of iCloud and back in, and that'll normally help fix that. Because they did have some trouble, I think, in the last week or so, where a fair amount of their services were down. So just like any big company, when everyone's home doing stuff, things sometimes break. They're normally pretty good, but things sometimes break. But one of the video questions that I got, until anyone asks me any other questions, is has some talk about the Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro and the Blackmagic ATEM Mini series. So Blackmagic is a company that makes various video production equipment and very high end. So they have 6K cameras, 4K cameras. They had I think it was it Blackmagic Red, or was it just Red? Who makes it? There's enough camera companies and stuff going out there. I can't keep up with all of them all the time, but they make a lot of production equipment and big production equipment. Well, the ATEM Mini and the ATEM Mini Pro is a foray into a cheaper set of production equipment. So the ATEM Mini is a $295 video switcher with a lot of fancy bells and whistles in it, but it's essentially a video switcher. So it allows me to bring 4 HDMI cameras in off the back of the camera into it, change them around, do pictures in picture, connect them into a camera and stream off of that. Or bring them into the laptop and bring it in almost like it's a webcam. So you just push the button and change, and you can have audio that follows it, that plugs in. And then the Pro does pretty much the same thing, but has this video preview mode that it can do. So if you have a monitor or a HDMI, what we call a confidence monitor, you can hook that up. And instead of using it in confidence monitor mode, you can see all the feeds of all the cameras coming off of it. And that's one of the big differences between the Mini and the Pro. And that's one of the questions they want to know is, hey, some of the software I'm bringing in, you can only have so many capture cards. So a capture card is a device that brings in HDMI signals and converts it to USB, which is essentially what the ATEM Mini is doing. Where if you got something like the Elgato Cam Link, it's a single connector. And that single connector is one in, one out. And that's great until you need more than one. If you have a desktop and two USB, not ports, but two USB cards. So not two things that are side by side, not two of these just sitting side by side, the receiving end, but instead separated from each other. So they're in two different cards. If you have that, then you can get two of the same Cam Links, Cam Link 4K. If you don't, if you have like a laptop like I do, that you use primarily, then you only have one USB bus, and those things have to enumerate a specific name. So every time you plug it in, it goes, hey, I'm a Cam Link. And you would think it would go, hey, I'm Cam Link 1. And then the next one would go, hey, I'm Cam Link 2. Doesn't work that way. It works that way for hard drives because of the way they are, but when it comes to capture devices, not really. So the problem with that is then you can't hook up more, or you're going buying another off-brand one. You might buy a Mavis one, and you might buy, a different one by Elgato, like the HD60, S Plus. Plus is important because that's what makes it plug and play. 60S is not. You have to install software. But you keep doing that. So the more cameras you bring in, the more that's a pain. And it starts to add up. The Cam Link is around $139. The HD 60S Plus is almost $200 when it's not the whole COVID price jacked up for the all the streamers. But you can get the ATEM Mini for $295. And the Pro, which just has a lot more Pro features and some extra freeze features, you can also connect it into Photoshop and do some extra titling for both the Mini and the Pro. The Pro just does more. And then the Pro can actually broadcast without a computer. They can go live to Facebook and YouTube and all that. But that one's $295, and then the Pro is $595, and you can talk about some of the differences on there. But they wanted to know, then should they go to that? Well, obviously, if you want to have more than two cameras, then yeah. If you use something like I use, Ecamm or vMix is the PC version or PC equivalent of that for your broadcasting and recording, then most of them, especially Ecamm, has the capability for me to plug in my USB cameras like webcams, Canon cameras especially. They have USB coming off, and I lose a little bit of quality, but not terrible. So I can just connect those and be right in. But some cameras, and if I want different ones like some of the Sonys, I'm probably going to bring them in, even though they can do a little bit of USB, they're going to come in over HDMI. And if I had a bigger production, if I was producing something for a church or wedding, venue, and that's what I was doing, then I might not necessarily want all of those trying to come in via USB. And that's where the ATEM Mini Pro and Mini were great, because you can have 4 imports. The only downside is it's 4 into it and 1 coming out. So on your production software, you won't necessarily see 4 different cameras. You'll see 1, so you're just switching it on the side. Not ideal. That's where the Pro is nice, because you can hook up an LCD monitor to it and see what they are before you switch to them. So in case one of them, if it's right beside you, you're not going to worry. You can see this camera's pointed here. You can see this camera's pointed there. It's great, but when you're in a big venue, you don't know if your cameraman 1 is, down the hall almost using a wireless send or an NDI, which is just a more secure than, or a more robust than wireless HDMI. It's just another type of broadcast network software or wireless technology. So whether it's wireless HDMI or NDI, you don't know if they're down the hall and what they're pointing at. They could be going to the bathroom by accident. You've switched to their camera and have a shock, especially if, at a church or at a wedding and you're popping it up on screen. Well, that's where the Pro is nice with the monitor, and you can do that. There's one set of feature or issues though that people are still working out. and this is where the question came in, was, hey, I heard there's some audio sync issues. So you can bring microphones into that software or into the back of it. But how do you keep the audio from your microphone in sync with your camera? Well, you can dial them in and kind of do that, but that doesn't always work well. So one of the hints that people say is plug your audio directly into your camera, which still works as long as what's nice about the ATEM Mini and the Pro is that you can even say, hey, don't bring the video feed from over here, just bring the audio. But that still could potentially bring up some sync issues. But generally, if the audio is going into the camera and the camera's coming in, then it's going to stay in sync, except for one fatal problem. And that is not all cameras can bring in audio over their HDMI. So when you bring it in, when you plug your microphone in, some of them can record into their memory card just fine. But if you're connecting it externally, like quite a few Canons, and I'm a Canon guy, but quite a few Canons can only come in the audio into the memory card and then not out through the HDMI. So a good trick around that instead is to get a low-grade audio mixer. You can get those little 2-port ones that take in XLR mics, USB mics, all sorts of different mics. And you can get them for upwards to $80 to $90, which sounds like a lot, but in the world of broadcast and in the world of video, it's not that expensive. You can get much bigger ones that do more, but the nice thing is you can do a mic delay in those. Ecamm has the capability for me to do mic delays, and most other video software does too. But the nice thing is with one of those mic systems or Zooms, if you have a field recorder, is you can bring in 2-3 microphones and then do different delay on those. So you can have dual lapel and do all that without having to worry about bringing it to one camera and going from there. So that would be my suggestion, is get basically a DAW, but it's just a USB based audio bridge is what you'll see. And it'll normally have 1 or 2 XLR, which is the old microphone, not old, but it's the main microphone connector. And then they'll have the smaller little, what looks like headphone jack one, normally a larger one. Then they'll usually have USB 1 or 2 in, and then they'll always have 1 USB out, but they'll have knobs on them so you can do it that way. And the more advanced ones will even be software controlled. So that's the hint if you're really wanting to get into that or running like a wedding venue thing, is to think about getting an audio bridge, because the connecting it through the camera and through, you just got to do your lookup and see if your camera passes HDMI or audio via HDMI, or is it just the video signal. Sometimes you can void your warranty by putting in a firmware hack, like Magic Lantern is what it's called for the Canon side. The downside is you're voiding the warranty. Sad part is that the camera's capable of it. And why Canon hasn't done it, no idea. So that's just my thing. But while I'm thinking it's been a little bit, welcoming any new people on. You're catching Glitch 2600's Tech Tuesdays, Tech TV. So if you have a question, a geek question that you need answered, or if you just want to say hi, pop it in the old chat down there. Put a Q in front if you've got a question so it catches my attention, so I know to really pop it up there and answer it. Or if you just want to say hi, you could just say hi. We like that, and we'd like to know what you're doing out there. And again, try to catch our other episodes, because we do some other fun stuff too. Otherwise, if you don't want to say hi, I'll just keep talking and coming up with more tech tips and more things to pass along. But I've said "but" a lot tonight. Having said that, that's what I would pass on to the friend that has the information about, wanting to know where to go with that ATEM. I'll also tell you another little hack that I've been messing around with. I want the ATEM Mini Pro. Would love it. But I keep spending a lot of money on all my different tech gadgets lately. And without having Blackmagic sponsor me, eventually I gotta not become poor. And there's other things I need to buy. Now that we added in the ring light that you can see in there, and the side lights, we'll see. And I picked up the new laptop. So with that, as much as I want an A10 Mini and an A10 Mini Pro, one, I want them to work out some of the audio sync issues. That still want some of the better priced ones. The A10 Minis and Pros are under $1,000, but the Rolands are $1,000 plus. That does the same type of stuff, but just better audio syncing. Well, the aside from the A10 Mini and the A10 Mini Pro, what you could do as a hack, because anyone knows I'm a hacker. So that means it's not just computers that I hack. It means anything where I want to bend something to my will from a technology point of view or geekery point of view, I'm going to do it. And that's hacking. So what you could do is get a cheaper HDMI switcher, the same type that you get for your TV. It has the imports, it comes in. So, when your TV only has 1 or 2 HDMI imports and your kids buy 3 gaming consoles or win them, and then you've got your VCR or your DVD, Blu-ray. You've got your Apple TV, and then you've got your other things coming in, and then you've got these game consoles, and your TV maybe only has 2 ports. Well, you go and get something called an HDMI switcher, because instead of spending a few $100s more on a TV to go buy another one, which better to check this before when you first buy the TV and get the ports that you need, maybe a little bit more, you can go and get this switcher that normally ranges anywhere from $15 up to easily $100 if it's a 4K one. And they have these things called active passive. Well, the cool thing is it's a lot of them have buttons that you push on the front. So you can have 4 imports coming in and 1 HDMI out. What does that sound like? It sounds like an A10 Mini Pro or an A10 Mini without the picture-in-picture capabilities and without the other. So what you could do is get one that has active power, so it plugs in. Bring your audio devices into that and plug the one out into a single capture card, into a cam link for $139. If you do that, then you can essentially change which camera is coming in by having that come into that $20 switcher. So instead of spending $295 extra, if you already have a cam link or a capture card, you could use your existing capture card and go spend $20 to $50 on a nicer little HDMI switcher. And they even have ones that have remotes. So if you don't want to hit the button, and you can spend a little bit more and get software and get you kind of in the same ballpark. Yes, the A10 does a lot more. So if you don't have a cam link, if you don't have something for a capture, spend the money on the upfront for the A10. If I would have known how far I was going to go into this, I probably would have saved on the cam link. Although cam link is great for quick for my GoPro. So when we do on location, when we start interviewing breweries, and when I start doing more on location stuff like I did last week, cam link's going to be great because it's small compared to a mini Pro that's kind of yay big. The cam link's only essentially about this big. But if you already have one, go get an HDMI splitter or switcher. But we're going to post up the question, how does an Apple TV box work? Well, that's pretty easy. So nowadays you see a lot of smart TVs. Almost any TV you buy, you're pretty much going to be able to get a smart TV. In fact, I don't think you can buy a TV that isn't a smart TV. I'm not necessarily a fan of the fact that you can only buy TVs that are smart TVs. It's great that they have processors in there that can do quite a bit. One of the reasons why I like 3D TVs isn't because I use the 3D, but because it has a faster processor for better picture rendition. So I get better picture quality. I, in fact, only use the 3D once in a great while for like Doctor Strange because it has really cool graphics, or Avatar or something like that. Well, a lot of these smart TVs have built-in Netflix, Hulu, all of that. But the downside with that is that they only get updates every so often, and you're stuck with what's pretty much in there. Again, it bridges a gap if you need to, if your Apple TV or Roku or any of those types of set-top devices are out, you can plug into the TV. But instead, I prefer an Apple TV, which I don't have one right where I can get to it. But you know what? I've got my handy dandy iPad and the capability to show my screen. So let's bring up the Apple website and bring up the Apple TV. So if I bring in TV, if I can get there, and I'll bring up the Apple TV 4K just so we can show what it looks like. And then I'm going to pop over to my handy dandy device here. So you're going to see what I have up on the screen and what it kind of looks like right there. That little device there, it's a small little set-top box. You can kind of see it over here in that far right under where it says 4K right now on the left. It's a little tiny box. In fact, this will tell you all sorts of stuff it can do in websites, but there should be the capability to show a picture. There you go. There's the remote. But we're going to go over to the buy because that's going to make it easier because it'll show it. That's what it looks like. If we view the gallery, it's a simple little tiny device. Comes with a remote that can be voice controlled, or if you have an Apple device, you can do quite a few things. It's kind of the front of it. That's the back. It's very simple. It has power, HDMI, and then network. Now, you don't need to plug in the network. That's just if you want to. If you have strong enough Wi-Fi, then you can just connect it via Wi-Fi. And there's the remote. But that device is really only about, let me see if I can grab a reference, about this big. That's how big it is, which the camera is going to show it at an angle. But if I were to show it next to my phone, it's not very big. And it lets you do a lot of stuff. One, it gets more app updates. So Netflix, as they make changes, the Apple TV gets new operating system updates, just like basically right around the same time that your iPhone and iPad gets updates. So does the Apple TV. So it gets new operating systems, gets to do new stuff. You can have multiple people log in and have different looks and different programs in it. You can even play games on them nowadays if you want. I don't do a whole lot of that, but you can. But you can bring in new apps. So HBO changed to HBO Max now. I can download the HBO Max app. I use YouTube TV. I used to be Direct TVs or AT&T TVs, but wasn't liking some of their pricing and changes. So I moved to YouTube TV. Not to be confused with YouTube. So I can have a YouTube app where I can look at YouTube and watch YouTube videos on there. There's even a Facebook videos app. So if you like the Facebook videos or want to watch live, you can do that on your Apple TV. But with the YouTube TV app, you bring it in, it just works like a TV. Connects right through and you connect it to your TV just like a Direct TV box. So with that, it just feels much more like a normal box there, but it has that Apple aesthetic that you use. So you can move the icons around if you want, just like you can on an iPad, iPhone. You can get new apps. I have one for Masterclass, so to learn there. Have my Hulu, Netflix. We've got a few streaming channels. You can even get ones for just the CW, CBS. Now, some of those streaming services cost, and some aren't. Like you can get CW, but you can't go too far back. You can only watch the last. I can't remember if it's the last 2 or 5 episodes, and if you don't stay on the show, it'll go off. Where YouTube TV has an unlimited DVR. So you can record it and it can stay in your cloud DVR forever. And you can go back and watch the show a bunch of times because YouTube is Google and Google has a ton of space and owns a large chunk of the internet. So that's what's nice about the Apple TV. But then if you're an Apple user already, there are so many other cool features. So right now, we'll flip back to mine, kind of show. If I were to swipe down from the top, you'll see over here where I can, I have this little remote icon that looks like a remote. Well, the cool thing about that is that I can use that to control my TV. So if I were to tap it, I can choose which Apple TV and control it with the remote there, just like if I was running the other remote. The other cool thing, if I popped back, where it says dock connector, normally I would see the capability to choose my TV, which allows me to put my iPad screen up on the TV, what we call AirPlay. The nice thing about that is if you're an AirPlay person or want to, or you use your iPad a lot, you can take your Facebook and throw it up onto the screen and watch it on a way bigger screen or scroll through it and go through there and see your stuff. You can see your websites that way. So you can be on the couch and look at it that way. Additionally, if you have pictures, if you have a video you took with your iPhone, you can do that and throw it up on the TV instead of having to bring it to a computer and mess with it and load it to a second place, email it, all that. Well, the Apple TV lets you not have to do that. Additionally, if you bought Apple Music, the Apple TV can play your music. So one of the menu features, let's see if I can bring it up on their site to kind of show it, because of course I can't on mine right now, is that you can play your music. So yeah, you can control your smart TV, but yeah, photos. So if I flip back over here, the Apple TV, you can show your photos from your iPhone, from your others. If you have music, you can play. If you have Apple Music, you can stream a ton, but otherwise you can, any stuff you've purchased through Apple, you can go on there. Otherwise, if you didn't purchase it through Apple, you can just use AirPlay through your phone onto it and get that full sound. But this just shows that's the arcade you can get to, the App Store where you can download different apps for it that you can see and have on there. Hulu, Stars, if you like Stars, or Showtime, they have apps just for Stars and Showtime that if you didn't want all the other cool TV things, if you weren't caring about TV and you just wanted HBO, Stars, and Showtime, well, you can sign up and just buy those. I think they're anywhere from $7.99 up to $15.99. I think HBO is the most expensive one at $12 to $15.99 per month. Little hint, if you purchase it through Apple and sign up for the subscription there, I go to Costco and buy the $100 gift cards when they're on sale for $85 and then pay for my subscriptions each month with the gift card. It allows me to save essentially 1 month free if I want HBO every time I do a $100 gift card, because I'm only paying $85. If you have kids around, you can hook up PlayStation, Xbox controllers. Again, I don't really do that. The cool thing with the Siri remote is you'll notice there's a little spot there that it shows what looks like a microphone. If you press and hold that, it has Hey Siri for it, or Hey You Know Who, where you can do just what it says. You can command it to open Netflix. You can command it to play the last episode of this show or play this type of music. That's the type of stuff you can do with it. But that kind of shows the interface of what's up next and all that. I wish I had mine up to show you a little bit more. But you can put it to sleep. You can have different logged in users. That's a new feature of it now. So if there's multiple people in the house that have different Apple IDs, you can switch between them and go from there. But you can watch movies. So if you bought the digital copies of movies, so a lot of times if you go to Target, you can buy Blu-ray and it says Blu-ray with digital copy. If you put it in, then you don't even have to get up off the couch or anywhere to go put in the DVD or the Blu-ray. If you put in the digital code, you just go to your movies up at the top and Apple goes, yep, I know you. I know you got this. And gives you a list of digital movies that you own. And you can just do and watch that there. You can also rent movies through the Apple store. You can rent movies through Redbox's streaming one. That's what's different from a smart TV, is that there's all those things in there. I mean, here's some of the movies that you can get in 4K and Dolby Atmos sound if you have that, because this supports Dolby Atmos if you have those types of speakers and surround sound. Not everyone does. The fact that they support 4K HDR is pretty nice. If you have a 4K TV, you can get quite a bit of range out of it. But yeah, that just kind of shows some of it. But that's what the Apple TV kind of brings to it. Like I said, a smart TV, you might get new apps, you might get new things for it from time to time, but Redbox started doing streaming. You could put the Redbox app on there. If you have Amazon Prime, you can put Prime Video app on there, which you may or may not have on your smart TV. The other thing is, if it doesn't get updated, there was one called, well, there is still one called Voodoo, but they don't do as much. Walmart kind of moved away from that. And, or no, they still kept it. It's Ultraviolet that went away. So Sony's Ultraviolet went away. Well, if you have the app on your TV, it's still going to be on your TV. They don't normally pull them away when it updates, or they just forget updating the TV anymore. At a certain point, they don't put anything above putting tiny fixes in. They just kind of let it go, where Apple keeps developing for the Apple TV, and you're never really stuck with it. The other side of that is you do all your setup in it. Let's say you have this TV today, and most people can keep a TV for pretty long. LEDs don't last as long as some of the tube TVs, but I've had some of my LEDs for a really long time. They always say plan on the fact you'll have the TV for 6 years, 5 to 6 years. I know ones that stay longer. The technology changes faster. Some LCDs will go out, compared to tube TVs, but with that, if you have an Apple TV, you can move it to other TVs. Your TV breaks, you can move it to another TV. If your smart TV breaks, then all your settings that are with it go away with it. So that's where even your configurations changes. If you have an Apple TV, you can load them onto another one. If you have more than one Apple TV, or you have more than one TV in your house and you hook up Apple TVs, you can have them so the menus stay the same. You don't have to go configure the stuff on each one. Kind of like you used to have to with DirecTV. With Apple TVs, you can say, hey, make them look the same. So if I download an app on Apple TV 1, download the same app on Apple TV 2 and put it in the same spot. You can also have consolidated searching. So with a smart TV, if you have Hulu, Netflix, and DirecTV or whatever on it, and you want to find a show, you got to go to each app and search. On a Apple TV, even Roku's do a level of this, which Roku is just another competitor from another maker, does the same stuff. Amazon Fire TV does the same type of stuff. It's just if you have Apple, you're probably going to stick with Apple. Apple has a consolidated search, so you can hit into it and say, hey, I want to watch Motherland. Motherland is a show that's on Hulu. It's also on a couple other ones because Hulu just plays the replayed show. I don't think it's a Hulu exclusive or original. I'll have to look into that. I think it's an FX. But it'll go and say, hey, of all the apps you have, this is the one that has the show, and takes you right to it. So you don't have to hunt through 3-4 apps. If you have Disney Plus and your daughter wants to watch zombies, you can type zombies or say, hey, hey, you know who, find me Disney zombies. And it'll go, all right, I have that on Disney Plus. Or it'll go, hey, you've got it on YouTube TV because you have the Disney package. And we'll take you to it. So that's what's really cool about Apple TV. And that's really how it works. It's just a set-top box that moves all of those kind of TV smarts into its own smaller package that's more Apple-based, more Apple integrated. You can control it with your watch. You can control it with your phone. If the remote's not nearby, you can do it that way. It can turn off your TV if you want, because it can do what's called control over HDMI, something you might want to turn on, or you might see it as CEC, which means when you turn off the Apple TV, it'll turn off the other. If you ever want to have a smart home, like with smaller locks like I do, or garages, it becomes the smart hub if you don't have a Apple HomePod. So it can do a lot for not costing a ton. The 4K is the more expensive one, which normally doesn't tap out more than $199, but you can normally find it on sale. You can find open box versions, and they work great. So you can go there. You don't really need the 64K version. You can just get the 32. Why Apple, other than for gaming, why they put in a 64 gig version, I don't know. But like I said, it's a pretty nice little device that can follow you around, to different TVs and really take the load off the TV and let the TV do what it does best and be a TV, show the picture well. So that way too, you can pick a TV that if you don't much care for the TV's menu system, doesn't matter. You set it up, set it, forget it, and then you do everything on the Apple TV. So I think that'll kind of answer. Do you get local channels too? With the Apple TV doesn't actually give you TV. It's the apps that run on it that give you TV. So, like I was saying, you can get YouTube TV. You can get AT&T's one, which I wouldn't recommend. If anything, you can get Hulu TV, which is a good option, or you can get YouTube TV. Those are two really good ones. There's also Sling TV, which is an app you can put on there that allows you to mix and match. There's different comparisons out there between them. I found for the price and what I was wanting, because I like the Sci-Fi Channel and a lot of documentary channels, along with Cartoon Network and Disney, that YouTube TV just gave me more with the unlimited DVR. So I spend, I think it's $50 a month, and I get local channels and everything with that. So I get full local TV, and I can DVR it, I can record it, I can go back, I get video on demand. I get basically everything I would have got with DirecTV, but I'm only spending $50 a month. And that's YouTube TV. If you like a lot of Hulu stuff and you don't need a couple channels that are different, because there's differences between them, you could do Hulu and then do the live TV add-on, and it's about the same price. It's around $50, but then you get the Hulu originals. For me, or it costs a little bit more, I just pay the cheapest of the Hulu plans and have that. Eventually, someday I'd like to drop Netflix, but we keep finding cool things that we want to have on there. But otherwise, yeah, you can get local channels. You can get local channels, though, even without that. HD antennas, there. If you have I think there's an app. You can get most of the local TV channel apps. They have their own. You can get like a CBS app or a local one. A lot of times to get the local channels, you just have to jump between them. Instead, I like paying just a little bit more and get the everything in one interface, like the YouTube TV or Hulu TV, or like I said, you can spend $20 and get Sling TVs, but you just get less channels, a lot less. It's more like you pick a package, like the old cable days, but you get local channels with that. Or if local channels aren't important to you, then you get these other channels instead. But like I said, YouTube TV is one of them I use. And it's just the application that runs on the Apple TV. Apple TV does have the TV app, which gets confusing because that's Apple's original programming. So that's where Jason Momoa has his show, like epic show called C, where everyone in the world is blind and his two kids or twins are born with eyesight. But everyone in the world is blind, so they assume anyone who can see that it's a curse now. Instead of the future and all that. So they make original programming like that, or Steve Carell's, I think it's Space Force. It's more like a Netflix original is what the Apple TV program is. But the Apple TV is a device. It's a hardware device that brings those apps in. So what you'd be looking at if you want local channels is really to get the Apple like Apple TV for the device for it to come in. Because like I said, not all smart TVs would be able to get some of the other ones. They might have Hulu. They're just not going to get those updates probably as fast. So you'd get the Apple TV, and then you'd get a service package like YouTube TV, Hulu with live TV, or Sling. You can get the AT&T one, but they've expressed a lot of, without me getting in trouble in case that someone from AT&T is ever watching the shows, they don't seem to they made it kind of clear that they're not really pushing their online streaming capabilities. They're trying to get people stuck into boxes for it, which is why. Makes sense. They make a lot more money on DirecTV when it's the hardware boxes. Even if you go online, they want to make it feel the same so that it's they feel like they can justify charging $100 a month or different things like that after all their taxes, as opposed to me having unlimited DVR storage space and it can follow me on my laptop and iPad everywhere, like I can with YouTube TV. So I hope that kind of answers it. It's kind of a bigger one. I should almost cover it and do a glitch bite on just that, on the different types, and maybe show my TV and how I do it on mine. But hopefully that answers it. Otherwise, too, if anyone else has questions, make sure you put a Q in front. And again, if you're catching this on the replay, so you're just checking it out later tonight, you can still ask your questions. Just type Q, it'll send me a message, or you could just message me through the Facebook page. If you go to Glitch 2600 and hit message, it'll tell you, hey, I'm sleeping or I'm doing something else, and I'll get back to you within a day. Just type your question, and when I do answer it, I'll either call you out if you want it, or I'll send you a message and say, hey, this was, we answered your question on the 10th at this time. Or if you don't want to be mentioned at all, I'll just say this question came in, and I won't say who you are, name, or anything like that. So you can still ask your questions. We get a fair amount of them coming in. Like I said, being an IT guy, always getting questions, which is why I like to do this. This is more my fun way to help people out online and just keep the show going in between my others. Also so I don't just have a show that only talks about wine and beer all the time, which is our happy hour. So if you like this, but want it to be involving craft beer, wine, and cocktail drinks, come check out our GH Squared, our Glitch Happy Hour, where I have a co-host, and she's way better looking than me for it, and helps us out. And we go through all the things craft beer. Otherwise, we do the bits and bytes too. But that's why we do the question and answer, so we can get those in there, and you guys don't have to wait. And we can just keep helping you guys move along, and you don't have to spend a whole bunch of money or get misinformation from a maybe undertrained, not going to say underskilled, but most likely undertrained store associate. So you can still get it from a hopefully higher trained version like me. Hopefully I'm a higher trained. Who knows? I'm, like I said, been doing it for years, and generally I can get stuff working. But maybe I've been doing it. I'll help you guys out. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to town on water. So, for tonight, if no one else has any other questions, because we've been going about an hour, and I try to keep these pretty, I was trying to keep them kind of short, as people have questions, then I'm going to wrap it up. And again, if you guys have more, shoot them through. We'll catch it for the next one. Otherwise, don't forget, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. Again, hover over that QR code with your phone, just hold it over it, and it'll say, hey, do you want to go to the site? Say, yep, go there and then hit the subscribe button. It'll help me out. And then otherwise, if you're on YouTube, turn around and follow us on Facebook. It's pretty easy. It's at Glitch 2600, all one word. I would pop up a QR, but that's pretty easy to type. Hopefully at some point we'll be streaming to both. I'm just actually being cheap because the software I use is looking at or going to be having in the future the capability to go to two sites at the same time, as opposed to me paying a service for it. So otherwise, it's in our future. We're going to be going to both at the same time, simulcasting. Otherwise, we might make some special content on one or the other from time to time. Each one has its own desired audience, I think, is what or preferred audience. They're pretty close, but some of the YouTube people do things differently, and some of the Facebook people do things differently, since Facebook is just now growing in that area. But we'll turn that off so that's not there. But if you guys enjoyed it, we're just going to keep trying to make it better and better. And again, you don't have to wait till this time to ask the questions. And if you come up with a better name for our Tech Tuesdays, because like I said, it's not always going to be Tuesdays, then shoot it through. We'd love to have it. Maybe someday when we actually have a logo, because we've been talking about it, then we'll have swag, and I'll send you a cool shirt or something if you come up with the name and we use it. Like I said, we kind of lean towards tech TV, but don't know if that doesn't really say question and answers, and we could just call it tech Q&A, but that seems boring. So if you guys think of something, we're going to keep brainstorming, but we'll welcome the help. Otherwise, thank you guys for coming on, and we'll catch you on the next one. All right? Bye.